ងារថ្មីអ្នកប្រើកាន់តែស្រួលនិងចំណេញពេលយើងចេញផ្សាយជិត 10000 អត្ថបទក្នុងមាតិកា 29 ធំសុទ្ធតែវិជ្ជបណ្ឌិតជំនាញត្រួតពិនិត្យយ៉ាងយកចិត្តទុកដាក់ឥឡូវបន្ថែមមុខងារថ្មីឲ្យអ្នកអានកាន់តែងាយស្រួលថ្មីអ្វីគឺ bookmark ឬមុខងាររក្សាអត្ថបទទុកអានពេលក្រោយចូលចិត្តកាន់តែច្រើនអាចរក្សាទុកអត្ថបទបានកាន់តែច្រើនចុះធ្វើម៉េចងាយទេចូលទៅកាន់ website Hello Groupet ហើយគ្រាន់តែចុះឈ្មោះជាមួយ email ឬកណន័យបណ្ដាញសង្គមណាមួយជាការស្រេច Hello Groupet website សុខភាពធំជាងគេនៅកម្ពុជា
Getting health information has never been this easy. With Hello Sehat, Indonesia's most trusted health information is just one click away. Leading the way since 2015 with 37 million monthly page views, 20 million monthly users, 935,000 ranking keywords, 20,000 medically reviewed articles, and 1.5 million social media followers with 90-60% of our traffic being organic and direct. Hello Sehat is committed to create a better health content that will inspire users to be healthier, from articles to videos or social media content. We do programmatic, research, online events, and even web management. Our strong research team and experts understand what is needed for people's health. Therefore, we provide an end-to-end solution from health community, live expert chat on social media, hospital booking, doctor booking, and you know what? Every communication are carefully crafted through 4 phases of our user health journey. Let's partner and make Indonesia healthier and happier.
Hello, good afternoon. This is Kai Magsanok of Hello Doctor Philippines. Thank you so much for staying with us. We apologize. We experienced technical difficulties earlier today. So again, welcome to the first in a series of conversations on cancer, leading up to World Cancer Day on February 4. The Hello Health Group has come together to bring experts to you so that all your questions on cancer, beginning today, the prevention and how we can live healthier lives to prevent or hopefully alleviate, the onset of cancer. And then next week, we're going to do something more clinical, understanding the risks, the diagnosis, and the treatment. And then after that, which is February 3, we will be talking about support. Support for the patient, support for the carer, mentally, emotionally, psychologically. So with me today, before we introduce our special guests, we have 2 doctors with us today. I have to introduce my co-hosts, who I have missed since our last Facebook Live, which was November last year. So help me welcome the Editor-in-Chief of Hello Sehat in Indonesia, Madin Ismail. Madin, are you here?
Hi, hello Kai. How are you?
I'm good.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
New Year. Yeah. In the quest to live healthier, we are talking about cancer so that none of us, hopefully, will have to go through it and we can help those who are. Right, Madin?
Yeah,
And
really
then, of
excited about
course,
it.
yeah, super. And so fired up. Like, no matter how busy we are, coming together as a team, as a low health group, knowing that we are helping our audiences together, that really gives a different kind of happiness and fulfillment, right? As human beings, doesn't even matter what we do. Okay. Speaking of, another favorite human being of mine at Hello Health Group is Peach Sukolaban, the marketing manager of Hello Kunmore in Thailand. Peach, are you here?
Hello. Hello,
There.
Kai. Yes, I'm
Hi.
here. I'm here.
Okay. I promise next week I'm gonna learn how to place our virtual background before I get scolded by Graham. Hi, Graham. Okay. I'm putting it out there already. Okay, since we got delayed, let's jump right into the conversation. Let me introduce our guests for today. The first one is Dexter A. Galban, RN, RBP, MD-MBA, MPM. Commissioner Dexter Acosta Galban earned his Doctor of Medicine and Master in Business Administration double degree from the Ateneo de Manila University after completing his Bachelor of Science in Nursing degree from the University of the Philippines, Manila. He is a certified for leadership in management and health by the University of Washington. He is currently pursuing his master's in public management from the Ateneo de Manila University. So Doc Dex, as we affectionately call him, is a public servant. Okay, he serves in the government in the Philippines. So as a public servant, he serves as commissioner of the Commission on Population and Development under the National Economic and Development Authority. In the private sector, he leads both Alaga Health Inc. and Experto PlayLabs International Consultancy as Chief Executive Officer and founder. Doc Dex also shares his expertise as the national advisor, mentor, and consultant to several national and international NGOs, civil society groups, and patient networks. So I know how busy this person is. Thank you, Doc Dex, for joining us today.
Hi, and good day, everyone. I hope you're all having a wonderful, wonderful Thursday and excited for this discussion and, of course, to promote cancer awareness more so when it comes to healthy lifestyle.
Right. Thank you, Doc Dex. And then our next doctor is Maria Via JUCILLE M. Roderos, MD-MBA. We call her Doc Via. Doc Via earned her Doctor of Medicine and Master in Business Administration double degree and her Bachelor of Science in Health Sciences degree from the Ateneo de Manila University, where she currently serves as a professor for global health and health policy. So Doc Dex is a public servant. Doc Via is also a professor. She leads both Alaga Health Inc. and Experto PlayLabs International Consultancy Inc. as Chief Operating Officer. As a research consultant, she has previously worked with Healthcare Without Harm Asia, Mark Johnston Hospital, Global Center for Good Governance in Tobacco Control. We love that. Epimetrics, the Ateneo Center for Health Evidence Action and Leadership, the Department of Health in the Philippines, the United States Agency for International Development or USAID, and the University of the Philippines. So please give a warm welcome to Doc Via.
Good day, everyone. Good day, Miss Kai, Sir Matt, and Miss Peach, and of course, Doc Dex. I am very happy to be here, and I'm very excited for the discussion and the conversation that we will have.
Thank you, Doc Via. Of course, we want to thank this live is airing not just on Hello Doctor in the Philippines and Alaga Health. We're also airing in the other markets of Hello Health Group, namely Hello Sehat in Indonesia, Hello Kunmor, of course, where Peach is, Hello Krupet in Cambodia. Hi, Chipchet. I wish you could have joined us. And hello, Doctor in Malaysia. Hello, Vicky and Dr. Nurul. Okay, so this is again, like I said, the first in a series of conversations about cancer. And today we're going to talk about prevention and healthy living. For people who are not diagnosed with cancer, they're cancer free. I guess even for those who, they live with the fear that they might have cancer because it runs in the family, right? But we don't wanna take away the hope that they can potentially avoid it if they start making changes in their life. Okay, but to get the conversation rolling, maybe I'll ask the first question for people who are watching. Let's spell it out. Why does cancer happen? Is it really a lifestyle disease, just a lifestyle disease? Or like Lance Armstrong, right? He was a cyclist, he was active, super fit, he still had cancer. So what is cancer and why does it happen?
All right. So I think one of the main things that we have to acknowledge when it comes to cancer, and this is based on a clinical perspective and of course public health perspective, is studies are actually genetic, but most are not hereditary. Okay, there is a genetic component, but most are actually not hereditary. And at family history, on the other hand, is still considered the most significant and most consistent predictor of the disease development. So while it is genetic in nature, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is purely on genetics alone. There is a lifestyle component, and actually a lot of the things that we do in our everyday lives have a great impact when it comes to cancer development.
I'd like to echo Doc Dex's comment on it, because one of the things that we always want to emphasize to our patients, especially when we talk about cancer and lifestyle related diseases, it's really an amalgamation of different risk factors. One of those risk factors rather are predispositions, genetic predispositions that will actually make you more vulnerable to cancer. For example, for those who have family members who suffered from breast cancer, they're more likely to be diagnosed with it, especially when they're predisposed to some markers, no, some receptors that were present and that they have inherited from their mothers, and that's usually first degree. If you remember a certain celebrity who had a prophylactic mastectomy because of the strong relation to breast cancer, but at the same time, we also have lung cancer that may be may result rather from smoking, from any lifestyle practices such as tobacco smoking, and that's why I'm a strong advocate against smoking because of that. Um, Apart from it's a duty of doctors to be able to give preventive measures for their patients, it's also personal in my advocacy, and that's
Mm.
why really when you talk about cancer, it's not just there's no one single culprit. You look at the risk factors in your lifestyle, you look at the genetic predisposition, you look at actually the culture of your own culture, namely your nutrition, your everyday habits. So do you exercise? How much exercise do you get every day? What kind of food do you eat? What kind of food are available to you? So it's really an amalgamation of different factors that can actually give you a risk, a susceptibility to the disease itself.
Yes, actually, in general, just to add to what Dr. Daras has said, cancer in two or more close relatives will increase your risk. That's the general scope, no? Cancer in two or more close relatives. And that will change or somehow be permuted depending on the specific type of cancer. And then if you are over the age of 50 years old, your likelihood of developing cancer can actually increase as well. And then if you have multiple primary tumors, wherever it is in the body, and this is why there are particular cancers, for example, breast cancer, wherein we really encourage regular checkups. So that's why we do your breast self-examination to find these tumors. And also, if you already have cancer, there is a higher likelihood that you can develop other cancers as well as it continues to spread. So those are just the broad terms for cancer. And to add to Dr. Roderos' mention about Actually 90% of lung cancer cases are in fact contributed by smoking. So clearly, at the very onset, lifestyle really plays a major role when it comes to developing particular kinds of cancers.
Okay, thank you, Doc Dex and Doc Via. I have a follow-up question, but Madden, Peach, would you like to ask your questions first?
Peach, you want to go first?
Sure. So for Thailand, I have one question. I heard about the vaccine of the cancer. So this vaccine cancer can be when to get the vaccine like a high to get the to get the cancer in the future. So if we get the vaccines.
Right. I think this pertains to the vaccinations that are preventive in nature, correct? Yes. So, in fact, there are quite a lot of now new developments when it comes to cancer prevention. And there are vaccines that have been linked to decreasing your risk in developing some kinds of cancer. So, for example, your hepatitis B vaccine can technically help prevent liver cancer. And then you also have your HPV vaccine that can actually help, on the other hand, prevent cervical cancer. So there are now new developments in science that allow us to help prevent the onsets of cancer and hopefully prolong the lives of our friends and family members.
Thank you, doctor.
Madden?
Yeah. If I just want to ask some very practical questions that really happening in our daily basis. So this is a questions coming from actually from my side when I saw in Indonesia right now the trend is quite big when people start eating grilled food. Grilled food is very popular right now in Indonesia. Korean grilled food, Japanese grilled food. So I just curious. There are how actually correlation between grilled food and cancer. And then there's also some information that said I read some notes that if you after you eat grilled food you have to balance it with antioxidant fruits or nutrition, something like that. Is it correct way to do it to balance your body after you eating grilled food, and there's a chemical HCA coming from that, and then you can neutralize it with antioxidant kind of food? Please, sorry, it's a question, very practical questions, but I think this is something that relevant with the daily people activity.
Actually, we love questions like that
Yeah.
because it really allows us to remove all the extra fluff and all the technical terms and just get down to the business of answering. So maybe Dr. Roderos can provide some insight when it comes to what is being linked or commonly seen as carcinogenic food, especially the burnt part of the grilled food.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
perhaps Dr. Roderos can provide us some insight.
Yeah, I think, and this is also related to some questions or to other queries that our viewers might have regarding what are the food that we need to avoid for us to not have cancer. And we have seen there have been a lot of studies giving proof or giving conclusive evidence of carcinogens being present in foods that are grilled, especially those that are charred already. And because of certain chemical changes in how the food was cooked, that will actually lead us, no, if ever we eat a lot of it and we do it on a daily basis, make us more susceptible to cancer. And an example of that really is grilled or eating charred food, especially grilled food that are grilled meats that are red meats rather. No? Because of that, certain changes. Now, I'm not going to go into the technical specificities because we want this to be more relatable to our daily living. Certain chemical changes make us more susceptible to getting cancer, especially certain types of cancer that are related to our digestive system, with colon cancer. and as an example, when we eat certain, when we have that proclivity to eat certain kind of food, such as the grilled food. But at the same time, when we talk about preventing cancer as well, there is a lot of talk about antioxidants, and we get that from the food that are very rich in nutrients and vitamins and minerals. We always say this, and we echo this across all medical professionals, that we have to eat the rainbow when we plan our meals, when we plan our daily meals. So in the Philippines, we call it pinggang Pinoy, but in other countries, um, we call it, or it's branded, or it's labeled another thing. So when we talk about eating the right kind of food, it doesn't only mean the right substance, the right type. It also means the healthy amount, the appropriate amount. The timing should also be important, especially when we eat certain food, and also how often do we eat those. Now, it's not generally bad to eat grilled food. Of course, we love our barbecues. We love anything that is grilled, especially here in the Philippines. But there is some sort of a balancing way that we can do, especially when we talk about eating to prevent getting sick. So we can balance that with how we eat daily. So it's always important that even once a day you eat um, the colors of the rainbow. What do I mean by that? You eat your vegetables, you eat your fruits, you eat foods that are rich in antioxidants. In the Philippines, we don't get a lot of blueberries, but we also have food that are rich in antioxidants. And when you just eat colored food that came from your plants, your fruits, then you are um, getting one step closer in terms of preventing yourself from getting, or from being more susceptible to having cancer. So it's not generally bad, no, grilled food, but we want to have it in such a way that we don't abuse how we eat it. No? We don't do it every day. Sometimes if we really need to celebrate, we can take a moderate amount of it, but because of the chemical changes that will make us susceptible to cancer, it's something that we have to look out for. No? And it's something that we have to be mindful about when we eat it.
Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for thank you for that, Doc V. As a follow up to what Madden asked, I right now on Netflix, I love documentaries. Okay, especially sports documentaries because, right, athlete, the discipline, teamwork, love it. I am watching The Game Changers. That documentary is produced by, someone. He was an ultimate fighter. He got injured, and then he began to research during his recovery. He began to research about food and how to recover fast, get back inside the ring. Okay, and then he found out that our impression that the paleo, right, like the Stone Age diet is rich in meat is actually historically not true because of course the fossils of plants were easier to disappear right on the ground. So going plant based right now, us knowing that protein from plants, the protein from the animals we eat also comes from the plants they eat. So let's go direct to the source. Would a plant-based diet help? I'm asking, and I know this, maybe I speak for Madden and Peach. This is a subject that is very personal for me. My mother and two of her siblings had cancer. They're all survivors, but they had cancer. On my father's side, there's diabetes and hypertension. So I'm asking at this very moment, what can I change in my life? What can I do to at least increase my chances of fending off cancer, any form of cancer? So the food, Doc Via, the food. If you can give us an example, because you also said the timing, right? The timing of the meals. Can you give us an example of a day's diet? A day's diet that would help us have more energy to do our exercise, which I know can also help prevent cancer. But yeah, what to eat and what times of the day. We love talking about food, by the way. If you talk to Doc Lee, she loves food. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really one of the things that we bond over with Miss Kai, especially when we talk about food and cooking also. But there is no hard and fast rule really for food and eating. Just as long as you eat properly. No? For some, it will really depend on what their schedule for the day is. There might be some who might not really follow a certain usual schedule. That's the usual would be breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then snacks in between, because of their work, because of the nature of their jobs. But one of the things that I can probably advise people, especially in terms of timing and the right kind of food, is that there are certain there are certain ways in order for us to be able to eat properly. For example, if we don't want to, for people here who has been living with gastroesophageal reflux disease or GERD or acid peptic disease or peptic ulcer, they are advised to eat small meals every 2 hours because we need to be able to make our stomach work so that the acid won't damage its lining, and that's the problem with those kinds of diseases. And also having GERD can actually make you more susceptible to certain types of cancer in your esophagus. So that's why timing is really important, and that's why when we have patients who have GERD, we usually advise them to take small meals every 2 hours, no? Or don't skip a meal group, or don't skip any meals. You can have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You have to have that because that's how your body will be able to use its mechanism in order for you to get the nutrients that you need, and in order for you to also very protective in that case, because we want to be able to neutralize the one that incites stress, which is hyperacidity, to that extent. So in terms of timing, um, there's no hard and fast rule, but what I can advise is if you can't do small meals every 2 hours, don't skip a meal in a day. You have to have your breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And of course, when you get hungry in between, you can have a little snack, maybe fruit, bread, or anything that is towards the healthier side. Let's reserve the grilled meats for probably lunch or dinner. But 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 yeah, there's no specific time, just how often we can do it, and skipping is really not advisable. If you really can't, if you really are swamped with work, make sure that there's a stash of food available. I always have food in my bag, and I think Doc Bex knows this. Just so that if ever I get so busy, I can munch on. I can take a bite. I can make small bites, just so that I don't, increase my chances of having GERD, and other types of diseases as well. But I think Doc Dex can advise us on the right kind of food, especially expound on how it is like to eat your rainbow every day.
Yeah, sure. One of the things that we actually actively promote is if it comes in a very shiny, colorful, sparkling kind of wrapper, particularly your snackables, I would highly advise against consuming a lot of junk food, right? That's right off the bat, right there. And that just goes to everyone and not just those who are concerned about developing cancers. Because in general, there really is no one specific food or drink that can effectively immediately reduce our risk for cancer. And I know that there is this human tendency that when they find, oh, okay, there's this drink, there's this fruit, there is this vegetable, that if I eat a lot of it, suddenly my cancer risk drops down. While there are a lot of health benefits to eating your vegetables, your fruits, it does not necessarily mean that just eating that will automatically decrease your cancer risk, because there is actually now the opposite thing that happens, the tendency for us to overindulge. For example, this vegetable is said to be helpful for cancer prevention. That's all I'm going to eat every single day. Now that is going to be very, very dangerous. Why? Because you need to keep a balanced diet. And that is the core principle for nutrition. Because when it comes to cancer, while there is again a genetic component, how we eat every single day can affect how our other body systems will function. And as evidenced by what Dr. Roderos used as an example a while ago. Particularly, for example, if you have GERD and you keep skipping meals, the acid keeps going back up, and just keep drinking alcohol, for example, worsening the situation, it can actually really develop eventually into esophageal cancer, among many others. So really, moderation and proper selection of healthy food would be of paramount importance.
Thank you, Doc Dex. Peach, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do have one question about. So we are talking about the prevention. So we have been talking about the nutrition. So what about the exercise? So that exercise preventing to get the highly of the cancer or not? Can you give me like some point of view on this part?
Okay. Perhaps I can go first before Dr. Darius can provide a little bit more insight. So when it comes to exercise, um, one of the things that we highlight is that before you engage in a new form of exercise, for example, in the event that you are not really, let's say, a gym buff, you do not stay in the gym 24/7, or you're not really the active lifestyle kind of individual. While we do encourage active lifestyle, let's say you're going to try to turn a healthier leaf, for example, it is very important for you to consult with your physician first or your health provider before starting any endeavor. Why? Because there might be particular risk factors for you that might actually cause you more harm by suddenly engaging in rigorous exercise. Now, as an overall general advice, what we do suggest is you keep the healthy habit of at least maintaining 30 minutes of exercise at least 3 to 5 times a week, preferably every day if you can. Okay. One of the major misconceptions is that you have to be panting and already super out of breath or drenched in sweat or lifting heavy weights in order for you to get that active lifestyle that people are always talking about. Not necessarily. One of the things that we actually do encourage is for you to have that active engagement within your general chores or probably your daily activities. Increase your level of activity every day, whether that's just going up and down the stairs, or probably instead of just sitting down and reading, you can read while walking around or water your plants, or anything that will allow you to avoid being a couch potato. While it's good to rest, it's also equally good to be active and get that happy hormone out of your body. Get those endorphins running, because those can actually help keep you healthier and your immune system tip top shape.
Thanks, Doc
Thank you so much.
Dex. Yeah, we have a question from Vicky of our Malaysia team. Hello, doctor in Malaysia. What are the most important metrics to check annually if I have a family history of cancer?
All
Like
right.
for our APEs, what do we need to make sure we cover? Yeah.
I think before Doc Dex, I think this is something that we can all relate to. Me personally, because I have a strong family history of cancer. It really depends on what type of cancer is in your family. Number one, probably the most common one that we can usually advise is when you have history of breast cancer. When you reach the age of 40, you really have to do your annual mammography or your mammogram. No? But you can actually, but how, the question now is, how about those cancer patients who are in their early 20s? Because I also have cancer patients who are very young. So how do we now prevent that from happening, or how do we now catch it early on? This is where self-breast examination is actually very important. No? As young as when you have your first period already, your menarche, for our young women who are listening to us right now, it's important for us to be able to do self-breast examination regularly. No, I would advise doing it every time you have your period, because it actually helps us not prevent but to catch the cancer early on. Because one of the things that actually increases our chances of recovering or surviving breast cancer is if we catch it early on at its early stages. And how do we do that? By doing regular self breast examination. And I will explain it later how it goes. But we don't only advise that to women, we also advise that to men, especially since there are family members who might not be aware of it. Huh? There might be men here who might come across what we're talking about here, and they need to be able to advise their relatives, their family members, their loved ones regarding that. And we breast cancer is not only diagnosed in women. Men can also have breast cancer, although it's very, very, very rare. It's rare. But in terms of preventing it, no, it needs to be a partnership. It needs to be an effort of everyone, to be aware of it, to advise people of doing it, and to make sure that we actually catch cancer and prevent it from, aggravating early on. And that's something that we can actually advise them. So, number one, self breast examination that is done regularly. Number two, mammography, mammogram when you reach the age of 40 for breast cancer, especially for those who have strong history of breast cancer. For lung cancer, and I think this is where we touch on the topic of how do we catch cancer, what do we usually feel, when do we suspect it when do we suspect cancer, a cancer diagnosis, with what we feel. Usually, breast cancer is very special in that you can catch it early on. But for some cancer types, sometimes the manifestation comes at a later stage, wherein we already see people who are losing a lot of weight, unintentional weight loss that is not actually stemmed from, a diet or a regimen that we do, and kakeksha or muscle wasting. And that's one of the most unfortunate things that we have to look out for, especially if we see that happening to us or to the people who are close to us. Um, and that one is important in terms of, making someone or advising someone to seek a doctor immediately if there is something, if they feel something wrong already, and they don't feel, they just don't feel right about what they how they are. But in terms of, preventing cancer markers, the very quick example that we can do is breast cancer, especially for those who have strong history. Also, there are advice for colon cancer to get colonoscopy at the age of 50, especially if you have history. And then there are a lot of guidelines actually for it. Actually, Hello Doctor and the Hello Health group have a lot of good articles for that. There are specifics for each type of cancer in terms of determining it early on. And it's important for us to be aware of that, especially when we want to be able to catch it at its early stage. And I think, Doc Dex, you want to add to that?
Yeah, in general, for the consumption of our viewers, Simply put, actually, cancer screening tests allow us to detect cancer early and facilitate early treatment. Sometimes the battle with cancer is a matter of time. And by being able to somehow detect cancer early, we actually decrease the likelihood for potential death. And I know there are a lot of different kinds of cancers. That's why when they always say, what's the cure for cancer? We have to ask which or what approach in particular, because there are so many different types and the test for each or the screening tools for each will vary across the board. Dr. Roderas actually mentioned some of them already, in particular breast cancer, which is one of the more common kinds of cancer. And the best for that one would be your mammography. But you can also do, as she mentioned, colonoscopy for your colon cancer, and you can even do your pap smear. It's for the women, pap smear for cervical cancer, very, very important as well. And you know that even having regular dental checkups can actually help identify or spot early traces of head and neck cancer, right? So it is actually holistic. When you talk about cancer, it's not only the doctors or the nurses, our dentists, our other allied health professionals are also part of the team. And you'll learn more about that as you read more articles in hellodoctor.com.ph. And of course, if I remember correctly, when it comes to lung cancer, you can even have screening through a low dose CT scan, among many others. So we can actually talk about just all of the tests that you can do when it comes to checking yourself for cancer. But the thing is, you don't just go to the hospital and suddenly do all the tests to me. No, you can't do that. Why? Because we have to match it with the symptoms that you might have, the age that you are currently in, plus your family history. Because, for example, if you have a strong family history for a particular kind of cancer, your screening time will actually be much earlier than regular. So again, a vast amount of variety when it comes to cancers, but the approach really is to, when you not know, ask your doctor or read from any of the different websites of the Hello Health Group.
Thank you. Just to share, Madden and Peach. So I have been interviewing cancer survivors, and one survived ovarian cancer, which is very hard to catch on stage one. And another survived thyroid cancer. I just interviewed her today. But these are, we make fun. I don't know about you in Indonesia and Thailand. In the Philippines, we kind of poke fun at people who are so paranoid about their health. Like, in a way, our culture, we shame them. Like, why are you overreacting? Or you're such a hypochondriac. But these survivors I met, they are hypochondriacs. There's nothing wrong. Work with your doctor. There's nothing wrong with, checking everything now, right? And not waiting for symptoms. You have every right. That's why at Hello Health Group, all of our websites have health tools, screeners that you can use so that after you take the breast cancer screener, after watching this live, and then you see the result, you know your risk, immediately you can talk to your doctor and become healthy, okay, or fend it off, work towards not developing breast cancer. Okay, so thank you, Doc Via, Doc Dex. You already answered most of Vicky's questions. She's not here. Hi, Vicky. She's watching. I know she's watching. um Madin, you have a question?
Yeah, actually, um, yeah, I'm still gonna ask about food. sorry, sorry, I'm gonna get back to that. Uh, there is a. Is there any way, for example, right? This is very personal. I just want to make sure I'm doing the right way to raise my kids. So we as a parents, we sometimes we give them very very instant food. It's very easy food, like the the meats that already been. It's just gonna be a very easy and simple way to feed them. I just want to know, as a parent, if you want to say something to parents when it comes to giving the right food for the kids, right? I mean, this is a very uh, I just want to know what doctor said. What should we do as a parents? Please give us some kind of hope that we can raise our kids without having any concerns about that, especially about their foods. Just thank you.
Madin, you have to be specific. Are you feeding them hot dog and luncheon meat
To be
and chicken
honest,
nuggets?
usually
Or the packed
usually nuggets.
ramens.
The easy way is nuggets, chicken wings.
Nuggets.
It's almost like a daily basis. They love it,
Okay.
and then it's easy. Um, but we don't
Yeah,
have the
that's
time to
okay.
create. I just want to know, are we? Is there any ways that we can prevent some this as a parents, or is there any other easy way?
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, I
I'll
love the
take this
question.
talk next.
Super practical. Yes, go ahead,
So
Laura.
honest. So honest,
Yeah, and
Madin.
this is actually a concern of parents all around the world. How do I make my kids eat healthy? And you have a lot of shows, you have a lot of chefs who have actually been going at looking for alternatives for their kids. And then this is really where Miss Kai, my and Miss Kai's passion would really go into when we talk about, preparing the right kind of food for your children, for your families as well. And I think Miss Kai and I will have a very extensive talk on that soon regarding our passion for cooking. But it's really a concern for a lot of parents out there, especially how do I make my kids eat healthy. And it's good because parents right now are looking into starting their children develop the habit of eating healthy and being mindful of what they eat at a very young age. And that's how you develop habits, and that's how you develop good health seeking behavior, by looking at it from the preventive side, looking at nutrition. So what I can actually advise for parents, although I'm not a parent yet, but I have I have younger siblings, and I have nieces and nephews who have, who are very young. And the most common complaint that they would have is, I don't like vegetables, they are yucky, it's not good, I don't like how they taste like. And I, at least at some point in our lives as children, we don't like that because we want to eat something that is yummy, that is palatable, not just palatable but actually taste good. And in developing their habit of making vegetables, or breaking the mindset that vegetables are not good to eat in terms of how they taste, is actually started young, and the battle for that is actually started with actually should start at a very young age. So what we can do when you want to ease them into eating vegetables is to sneak behind the food that they like eating. So for example, when you do nuggets, there's actually a way for you to be able to create nuggets at home. No? So without going into specifics of cooking, you can substitute, the nuggets that you buy from the food or from the fast food chains, fast food stores, into doing your own homemade nuggets using lean meat, using white meat such as your chicken breast. And then you can control the amount of salt that goes into it. You can put uh, you can put food supplements right there. Some of them actually use food supplements that are plant-based in order for them to sneak some vitamins, some vegetables into the nuggets that they take. So what you can do is you can actually make pre-made and homemade nuggets for your children, especially if they love, you know, eating chicken nuggets. I mean, who doesn't love chicken nuggets? I usually indulge once in a while also. But, it's actually also essential to have a substitute or have an alternative that is homemade, because you know what goes in it. You know how much salt goes in it. You know where it came from, and you know that you only use fresh produce in cooking the food that they love. Another trick would be you sneak vegetables in their favorite pasta, their favorite dishes. Like for example, if your children, if your kids love mac and cheese, you can actually substitute. You can actually um, decrease, the cheese content in half and substitute pureed squash for that. No, in that way they can still eat. They can still taste the mac and cheese, but you little they didn't know that they're already eating squash in their meal. No, so those are tricks that can you can do, no, if they really don't like eating, or if you're starting, and then you slowly introduce them into helping you out in the kitchen, because if they see you actually prepare their food wherein there are vegetables or are fruits in their diet, they can actually get used to eating that, and they can bring it that they can make that as a habit up until they have their own kids as well. Their kids have their own kids. It's something that they can actually pass from one generation to another. And I usually encourage parents to make their kids, participate in their cooking, so that they are also aware. You don't only teach them, helpful skills at home, but you also form their habit of getting used to eating their fruits and vegetables.
Absolutely agree with that. I probably just to add last practical tip, because I know it's after the speed. You're after actually the speed of how you're going to prepare the meal, especially when you're super busy. So one of the things that we saw to be a very effective way to address that concern is that you can spend your weekends preparing the food with them, as Dr. Roderos suggested, and then actually having all of their meals already pre-prepared the entire week, and then just freeze them or probably put them in the fridge so that it would be easier to heat, whether it's through the microwave or through the pan, so that they will also feel very involved. So that at the very least, instead of just going on a quick drive through or buying already pre-made meals from your common chains, what you can do is actually still promote the home cooked food vibe that you and your kids were able to create together. So it even turns into a bonding experience.
So after
Thank you so much.
basketball, yeah. Go ahead, Nadine. Sorry.
Usually I just buy from a frozen food store and then just
Exactly. So now you can
all
create
right.
your own frozen food, but you made it with fresh ingredients together. And probably they'll feel a little bit more inclined to eat it because they made it with them as well.
Thank you.
I
That is
think
really helpful.
Gordon
Thank you.
Ramsay would agree with what you said, Doc Dex. Only use fresh ingredients.
Yeah. Speaking of prevention, we have one audience question on preventing cancer. Is there any medicine we can take to prevent cancer? This is from viewer Meng Fernandez. Is there any? And I think
um,
I can ask for Madden and Peach. Does stress really feed cancer? We need to know that. Madden and I and Peach. Yeah.
so in terms of medication to prevent cancer, um, what we can think of is just the HPV vaccine. But for now, there is still no single drug or single medication that can prevent it. Again, it will depend on what type of cancer you're talking about. So for cervical cancer, you have your HPV vaccine, especially for women. For breast cancer, there is still no consensus regarding a preventive measure, be it a vaccine or a drug. It's really the early detection that can help you, survive. Have a better prognosis. Um, there are also lifestyle modifications that we can do to prevent cancer. Again, it's really a battle of lifestyle. No, how do we prevent cancer if we have non-modifiable risk factors such as your family history, because you really can't choose that, no? Or your age, no. But there are lifestyle interventions that we can do. For example, if you have a smoker at home, it's actually helpful that you ask them to stop
Stop.
smoking, because they don't only make themselves susceptible to cancer but also make you susceptible to cancer, because I think we're all familiar with secondhand smoking, which is actually more dangerous to those who inhale it than to the person who's actually smoking. That makes them more susceptible as well to cancer. So we can make modifiable changes to our lifestyle and to the lifestyle of the people that we live with. But to be more technical about a drug that can prevent cancer from happening, unfortunately, we still don't have that magical drug. What we only have is the HPV vaccine for cervical cancer, Hep B vaccine for hepatocellular carcinoma. Yeah.
Yes. But I have to create a quick addendum for that one. Maybe we can change what we perceive to be a drug or medicine, because at the end of the day, food is medicine, right? So again, what you eat will matter, and that's why I noticed in this particular webinar there was a lot of concern when it comes to food, because that's what we consume every day. And if we now try to look into it as if everything that we put into our bodies is of paramount importance to cancer prevention, then definitely we will be a bit more conscious and aware of what we eat, instead of dumping lots of junk food. Probably your fresh cuisines, or probably those that you made at home, can actually prevent the onset of cancer through a healthier lifestyle.
Thank you, Doc Dex, Doc Via. So my question about stress. Does stress
Yes.
really, does stress breed cancer? Does it feed cancer? You know what I mean? I mean, um, yeah, that's what I mean.
Yes.
I can give so
Okay.
many examples, but basically, does stress feed? Does it breed? And then does it feed cancer?
The
Great.
correlation is not really direct. No, it doesn't really. If you're always stressed, you'll have cancer. But because stress actually puts you in a um, in a condition where you are more um, what do you call this, in an inflammatory condition, so to speak. Now, it will actually make you really in a non-optimal condition for you to be able to thrive and survive daily living. So really, for us, stress is really inevitable. Every day we experience stress, no, and it's something that we cannot really just easily eliminate in our everyday lives. But that's why it's important for us to be able to have mitigation measures, from our lifestyle habits to our nutritional habits, in order for us to be able to cope with the stress, be it physical stress, be it mental stress, emotional stress. And that's important. No? And we look at it not just from a physical perspective, but from the perspective of the person as a whole. Huh? Because we don't create an optimal condition for the person to be able to thrive, and prevent them from being sick, from cancer, from other diseases as well, if they're always in a condition that will not make them cope well with stress. It's really not a matter of eliminating it, but how do we make a person cope well with the stresses, because stress is inevitable, and our body has a healthy way of coping with stress, which can actually help us become more productive, become healthier. But it's in a matter of how do we now mitigate having stress. But the long and short, the consensus is that it's really, stress is not really directly a culprit of cancer, so to speak, but it really matters as to how we are able to cope with it, that will not make us not only sick from cancer and recover from cancer, but also other kinds of diseases as well.
Right. I definitely agree with Dr. Roderos on that point. However, that doesn't mean that you are allowed to drown in your stress. That doesn't mean that you should not relax and just keep going. Why? Because although there is no direct link between stress and cancer, at least based on studies, There is a direct link between stress and other conditions that can actually eventually lead or transform into a semblance of cancer. Like, for example, when you have high levels of stress and you skip meals and you have increased lactic buildup in the body, you can develop GERD. And as you mentioned a while ago, as you heard here, if you have GERD, for example, it can potentially increase your likelihood for developing esophageal cancer, among many others. So you see, even if there is no direct link to stress, between stress and cancer, there is a direct link between stress and so many other health-related concerns that can, if not mitigated, can lead to cancer. So again, mental health matters.
Okay, thank you so much, Doc Dex. Madden, you have a final question for Doc Dex and Doc Dia before we wrap up?
Yes, this is very important, and I know people are already aware about this, but I think we should keep resonating this over and over. Like you mentioned, smoking is the biggest risk, one of the risk factor for cancer, right? But still, the rate of people, I mean, who still keep smoking is still even now getting younger and younger. I'm once again as a parent, uh, I just want to, can you elaborate more, or is there any new studies that shows that how dangerously smoking to cancers that probably people need to stop right now at this moment? And then because right now it seems that this is something that really big, but it doesn't really that big enough as a as a risk factor when we talk about it in the campaign level. So
Mhm.
people more talking about the junk food rather than smoking, if they're smoking about cancer. But I just want to have one clear message from doctors about smoking and cancers. Is there
Okay.
anything that you can
I-
share
This
with
is
I'll
the
make
us?
it
perfect
more.
question for Dr.
Yeah.
Roderos. Yes.
It's a perfect way to wrap this up, especially when we talk about cancer. I'll make it more relatable because this came from a personal experience. I myself am a doctor, I'm a physician, but I had an uncle who's really close to my heart who died of cancer last year because of smoking. And this is proof enough that there is a direct correlation with tobacco smoking and cancer and eventual death because of it. And if we don't resonate this to our family members, if we don't um, make or raise awareness against smoking, tobacco smoking, it may be that the next victim of lung cancer may be someone who's close to us, maybe a family member, a brother, a sister, an uncle.
Mhm.
So I think if you want to be able to prevent that from happening, and if we want to be able to prevent death because of cancer, lung cancer rather, then we really have to stop smoking. We really have to um, prevent it, and we really have to strengthen our campaign against it. Yeah.
Okay. Doc Dex, anything to add? The final word,
Yes.
and then we wrap up our first conversation on cancer.
Yes, thank you for that. And I absolutely agree that when it comes to addressing cancer, you don't need to have the disease for you to live a healthy lifestyle in order to prevent yourself from getting the disease, prevent your family members, your loved ones from getting the disease. Because at the end of the day, one of the best ways to prevent and address cancer would be to live that healthy lifestyle, from what you eat, how you exercise, what kind of lifestyle changes you implement in your life. All of these things will actually matter. So hopefully you will keep yourself better informed by watching all of the videos such as this available in the Hello Health groups in different countries, as well as, of course, the different websites wherein you can find the articles of the Hello Health group in your respective countries. In the Philippines, it's Hello Doctor, it's Hello Sehat in Indonesia, and so many others. So please watch and read in order to know more how you can prevent cancer and, of course, better manage your lifestyle.
Thank you so much, Doc Dex. Thank you so much, Doc Via, Madin. I hope that we were able to answer all of your questions. Stop feeding them chicken nuggets. Add cooking together, part of your bonding routine with your boys after soccer and
Yeah,
basketball. Okay, that's a
of
lesson
course.
learned. So my takeaways, number one, food is medicine, right? What we put in our mouth every time we're hungry, that we give ourselves, down to the cellular level, to process is important. So it can heal us. We have to make better diet choices. Number two, the exercise. Yesterday we had a Facebook Live on diabetes. The doctor yesterday is stricter than Doc Lex and Doc Via. Like Doc Dex at least said 3 times a week, right? The doctor yesterday, she's like every day. Okay. But maybe, different approaches for different people with different concerns, which is why it's so important to work with our doctors on what would work for us. And third, be vigilant about your screenings, your checkups. You want to get tested, you want to get a mammogram or a breast ultrasound before 40, work with your doctor and get the clearance, and maybe you can get it, right? It doesn't have to stop you. What you hear from your neighbor or your relative or your best friend doesn't necessarily apply to you. Your body is different, your journey is different, so you make the decision for yourself. And then, of course, number four is do not smoke, right? Because smoking, not just lung cancer, smoking is also correlated to tongue cancer, throat cancer. I mean, even the farthest organ from the lungs can still be affected by smoking. So let us not smoke. Okay, that wraps up our first in the series of Facebook Live events for World Cancer Day. Thank you to everyone. This is Peach. She already left, so she's already cooking. Thank you, Peach. Enjoy your food there in Thailand, in Bangkok. For the patients, the viewers who asked questions, we are going to make sure to answer your questions first next week. So please join us again next week. Thank you for sharing this Facebook Live to help others. Doc Dex, Doc Via, we have no words. I'm just super happy that you guys finally got to meet Madin, and Madin got to meet you already. Um, so until next week, in behalf of Madin and Peach, this has been Kai Magsanok of Hello Doctor Philippines. Thank you and stay well.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.